Stop. Before you scroll past this, I need you to hear something nobody in your life has had the courage to say out loud. What you have been feeling is not a breakdown. It is not depression. It is not age catching up with you. It is not confusion. And it is absolutely not God turning his back. What you have been feeling, that strange, hollow, can't quite name it, ache, sitting in the center of your chest, is the sound of heaven moving your life. You have been waking up at 3 inches the morning for no reason, lying in a room that used to feel like home and feeling like a stranger inside it. You have been pulling back from people you once loved being around, and you cannot explain why. Something in you has gone quiet. Something in you has gone still, and it scares you. But hear me right now. That is not panic. That is movement. That restlessness in your spirit, that is not anxiety attacking you. That is acceleration pulling you. That grief you cannot locate? You are not losing your mind. You are losing a season. And seasons that are finished always hurt when they finally let go. God has made a final decision about your address. Not your street, not your house, your spiritual address, the place where your identity has been living, the season where your faith has been parked. The location heaven has already quietly, permanently closed. You are not leaving in shame. You are not being pushed out in failure. You are not collapsing. You are being called forward. You are standing in a doorway right now. The old train has already left the station. The lease on that old house, that old version of who you were, has expired. And heaven is handing you a new address. Stay with me, because if you leave this message too early, you will carry an old lie straight into a new season. Before this word ends, you will understand exactly why God allowed this season to last as long as it did. Type right now, I am leaving what God has closed. This is not background noise. This word is a threshold. Let me ask you something nobody else has thought to ask you lately. When was the last time you felt completely at peace in a room that used to be your sanctuary? When was the last time a conversation with someone you love felt easy, natural, like it used to? Because something has shifted, and deep down, in the place you don't talk about at the dinner table, in the place you don't mention at church, you already know it. The last few days have not felt normal, and I am not talking about the news. I am not talking about your health, your schedule, your circumstances. I am talking about something underneath all of that, something atmospheric, something you can feel in your chest before your feet even hit the floor in the morning. You have been waking up before sunrise, not because of an alarm, not because of pain, but because something in your spirit refused to stay asleep. You lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, and you could not name what was pressing on you. You just knew something was pressing. You have cried recently and you could not fully explain why. Not grief over a specific loss, not fear over a specific threat, just tears that came from somewhere below the surface, like water finding a crack it had been waiting to move through for years. You have sat in the middle of ordinary moments, a Sunday meal, a phone call with family, a quiet afternoon in your own living room, and felt like a visitor. Like the walls around you belonged to a version of your life that was already receding. Like you were saying goodbye to something and you did not even know what. That is not mental fatigue. That is not getting older. That is not weakness. That is a spiritual atmosphere. And it has a name. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says it plainly. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. Not some things, everything, including the season you are standing in right now, including the one that is closing. Some seasons do not end with a dramatic explosion. They do not end with a fight, a failure, or a final announcement. Some seasons end the way a storm ends, not with thunder, but with a strange, heavy stillness. The kind of stillness that makes the birds go quiet. The kind of stillness that makes the air feel thick, loaded, expectant. That is what you have been breathing lately. It is the air before the break. It is a courtroom holding its breath, waiting for the verdict that has already been written. It is a moving truck, loaded before sunrise, sitting in a driveway engine, not yet running, but everything already packed. Something in your life has already been packed. You just have not seen the truck pull away yet. And here is what the enemy did with that stillness, and I need you to hear this carefully. He moved into it. He took that sacred, suspended atmosphere, the one heaven designed as a waiting room for your transition, and he furnished it with lies. He whispered into your sleepless nights, "Nothing is coming. Nothing is changing. You have been forgotten." He sat inside your unexplained grief and told you it was proof of abandonment. He took the very silence of God, the silence that comes right before the move, and he repackaged it as rejection. The stillness was not empty, chosen one. It was occupied. Heaven was in it. Heaven was working in it. Heaven was using every sleepless hour, every unexplained tear, every moment of holy detachment to prepare you for something your current environment could no longer contain. Isaiah 43:19 says, "I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it?" Not will do, am doing, present tense, active, right now. In the stillness you have been misreading as silence. You were not being abandoned in that atmosphere. You were being briefed. Heaven was quietly, precisely, pulling your spirit loose from things it was never meant to stay attached to: people, patterns, places, versions of yourself that belong to a season God has already closed on his end. The feeling of not belonging where you used to belong, that is not rejection, that is release. The feeling of emotional distance from what used to comfort you, that is not coldness, that is preparation. The sense that you are grieving something invisible, something you cannot put your hands on, is the feeling of a spiritual lease expiring. And chosen one, you cannot renew it. God has already changed the locks. Psalm 31:8 says, "You have not given me into the hands of the enemy, but have set my feet in a spacious place," a spacious place. Not the cramped, suffocating, expired season you have been trying to make work. A spacious place, room to breathe, room to become, room to walk in what heaven has been engineering for longer than you realize. The atmosphere was not warning you that something terrible was approaching. It was preparing you to move. And now that you can name what you have been feeling, I need to show you what the enemy planted inside that stillness. Because there is a specific lie, a hidden agreement that many chosen ones made in their most exhausted moments. That is the real reason the door has not yet swung fully open. If you have felt this strange pressure lately, this weight in the air, you could not explain type right now, "I feel the shift." Because what comes next will show you exactly what has been holding the door. Now I need to tell you something that is going to make your whole past make sense. The enemy was never powerful enough to stop what God wrote over your life, so he did something more dangerous than attack you. He made you misread it. He did not just wound you. He handed you the wrong interpretation of your wound. He sat beside you in your lowest moments like a crooked attorney standing before a jury, and he held up exhibit after exhibit. Every failure, every closed door, every unanswered prayer, every relationship that fell apart, every dream that never took off. And he said, "Look at the evidence. Look at what your life says about you." And some of you, in the deepest exhaustion of your life, you agreed with him. Not out loud, not in a church pew, but quietly, in the dark. In that private sentence you said in your spirit when nobody was listening, "Maybe I waited too long. Maybe I missed it. Maybe God moved on without me." That agreement, right there, that is the real damage. Not the loss, not the delay, not the closed door. The agreement you made with the wrong verdict. Here is what he did. And I need you to see this clearly, because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. God was pruning you. The enemy called it punishment. God was isolating you for preparation. The enemy called it rejection. God was developing you in the delay. The enemy called it denial. God was allowing grief to strip away what you no longer needed. The enemy called it failure. Same season, two completely different interpretations. And the one you chose to believe determined how long you stayed in the valley. Chosen one, Romans 8:28, does not say some things work together for good. It was not say the clean things, the convenient things, the things that made sense at the time. It says all things. Every broken piece, every embarrassing chapter, every season you wish you could erase from your story. God did not waste a single one. What looked like demolition was actually construction. You walked through what felt like burial, but that was not burial dirt on your shoulders. That was construction dust. You were not being torn down. You were being rebuilt from the foundation up. And nobody lives comfortably inside a building under renovation. Nobody sleeps well when the walls are coming down around them. Nobody feels settled when everything familiar is being stripped and replaced. But ask any architect. The most dramatic phase, the phase that looks the most like destruction, is always the phase just before the new structure rises. You were not being erased. You were being repositioned. Let me speak to someone right now who has been carrying shame about their history. You look at your past and you see disqualification. You see the years that went sideways. You see the relationships that broke. You see the opportunities you did not take and the ones you took too soon. You see the version of yourself that stumbled publicly, painfully, sometimes repeatedly. And somewhere inside, a quiet fear has been whispering, what if God's decision is not in my favor? What if I am too far gone? What if the gap between who I am and who He called me to be is just too wide? I am about to dismantle that lie with one truth. David committed adultery, covered it with murder, and God still called him a man after His own heart. Peter denied Jesus 3 times out loud, with cursing, and God still built His church on that man's foundation. Paul held the coats of the men who murdered Stephen, and God still chose him to write half the New Testament. Your history is not evidence against you. Your history is the raw material God has already decided to use. The enemy wanted you to read your past as a verdict. God is using it as a blueprint. So stop rehearsing the broken chapters like they define the ending. Stop presenting yourself before the throne dragging the prosecution's evidence behind you. That case has already been dismissed. The crooked attorney's closing argument has already been overruled. Because here is what the enemy never told you when he was laying out all that evidence. The judge is also your father, and a father does not look at his child's scars and see failure. He looks at those scars and sees everything his child survived to still be standing in the room. You are still in the room, chosen one. After everything, you are still in the room. That alone is not coincidence. That is covenant. Now say this out loud. Do not just think it. Open your mouth and say it. I reject every false interpretation of my season. Say it like you mean it. Say it like the agreement you made in the dark deserves to be broken in the light. Because the moment you reject the enemy's interpretation, the moment you stop agreeing with the wrong verdict, something shifts. The season does not change immediately, but you change. And when you change how you see the season loses its power to keep you paralyzed inside it. You were never being removed. You were being relocated. And that is exactly what we need to talk about next. Because God does not just close a season without opening something else. The question is not whether the door is opening. The question is, are you still holding the keys to a house heaven already closed? Let me ask you something nobody has ever asked you directly. Who saw it? Who was in the room when you swallowed your pride and walked away from that argument even though you were right? Who was watching when you kept showing up, kept praying, kept serving while the people you poured into never once looked back to say thank you? Who noticed when you chose silence instead of revenge? When you forgave someone who never apologized? When you got on your knees at midnight, exhausted, empty, barely holding together, and still whispered, "God, I trust you"? Nobody, not one soul, but heaven had a camera running the entire time. And what heaven recorded was not weakness. What heaven recorded was not survival. What heaven captured, every single hidden moment of your obedience, was evidence. Legal evidence, covenant evidence, the kind of evidence that gets presented before a throne, not a courtroom on earth, but the highest court in all of creation. Hebrews 6:10 says it plainly. God is not unjust. He will not forget your work and the love you have shown him. Not unjust. That means heaven keeps records. That means nothing you did in secret was ever actually secret. That means every sacrifice that went unrecognized by people was being documented by God. You thought you were barely making it. Heaven called it evidence. You thought you were just surviving another day. Heaven was stamping your file, confirmed. Now I need you to stay with me here, because this is where most people miss it entirely. Many of you have been asking the wrong question. You have been asking, God, why is it taking so long? Why hasn't the door opened yet? What am I doing wrong? But the real question, the one heaven has already answered, is this. What were you being proven to be in the waiting? Think about Elijah. Here was a man who had just called fire down from heaven, one of the most dramatic miracles in all of Scripture, and then within days he was hiding under a juniper tree, so broken, so depleted, he told God, "I've had enough. Take my life." 1 Kings 19:4. And what did God do? Did he rebuke him? Did he strip his calling? Did he say, "You failed the test"? No. God let him sleep. Then an angel touched him and said, "Arise and eat. The journey is too great for you. The journey is too great for you." That word was not shame. That was preparation. God was not finished with Elijah. He was repositioning him. And before Elijah could reach his next assignment, Mount Horeb, the still small voice, the mantle passed to Elisha. He had to survive the hidden season first. Chosen one, your hidden season was never punishment. It was the longest, most grueling, most sacred part of your preparation. Every morning you woke up and chose to keep going with no applause. That was a document being signed in the courts of heaven. Every tear that soaked your pillow at 2 inches the morning, heaven didn't just see it, heaven collected it. Psalm 56:8 says, God puts every tear in a bottle. He keeps a record of every one. Your tears were testimony. Your silence was strength. Your endurance was the seal on your verdict. And that verdict reads, departure approved. Not because the clock ran out, not because you finally performed well enough, not because you earned it by human standards. The season changed because your endurance became legal proof that you were ready to carry what comes next. Let me say that again, because somebody needs to hear this in their bones. The season did not change because time ran out. It changed because your endurance became legal proof. There is a difference between a person who endures because they have no other option and a person who endures because something deep inside them refuses to stop believing. Heaven knows the difference, and heaven has been watching you long enough to know exactly which one you are. You stayed when leaving would have been justified. You believed when doubt had every logical reason to win. You kept your integrity when compromise was standing right there offering you relief. And every single one of those moments nobody clapped for, nobody wrote about, nobody celebrated, was being woven together into the most powerful legal argument heaven has ever presented on your behalf. Your departure was not delayed by those choices. It was confirmed by them. Now, right now, I need you to do something. Not later. Right now, if you know what it cost you to stay, if you know what it felt like to keep going with nothing but raw faith holding you together. If you obeyed in the dark with zero recognition and zero applause, type it right now. I stayed, because heaven already knows. But it is time you owned it too. And that brings us to the most dangerous question of this entire message, the one most chosen ones are afraid to answer honestly. Because staying was only half of it. There is something God is asking you to release before the door fully opens. Something you have been holding on to, not out of rebellion, but out of exhaustion. An agreement you made in your most broken moment that is quietly anchoring you to a season heaven has already closed. And if you do not identify it, you will walk through the new door dragging the old weight with you. That is exactly where we are going next. Let me tell you about a man who won the greatest spiritual battle of his generation and then collapsed in a desert, begging God to let him die. His name was Elijah. And before you assume his story has nothing to do with yours, stay right here. Because what happened to him after the victory is exactly what is happening to you right now. 1 Kings, chapter 18. Elijah stood alone on Mount Carmel against 450 false prophets. He called down fire from heaven. The altar burned. The people fell on their faces. The rain returned after 3 years of drought. By every measure, it was the greatest triumph of his life. And then he ran. He collapsed under a juniper tree in the wilderness and said, "It is enough. Lord, take my life." One verse after the greatest miracle of his ministry, and this mighty prophet of God was done. Finished. Lying in the dirt, asking heaven to end it all. Now, let me ask you something directly. Have you ever held on through something that took everything out of you, a season of fighting, of praying, of standing firm, when everything in your body screamed quit, and then, when it was finally over, you felt nothing? Not relief, not joy, just empty? Have you ever survived your own Mount Carmel? A sickness, a loss, a betrayal, a decade of carrying something too heavy for one person, and then wondered why you felt more broken after it ended than you did during it? That is not weakness. That is the anatomy of a warrior after war. The battle costs something that rest alone cannot immediately replace. And what Elijah experienced was not spiritual failure, it was spiritual depletion. There is a difference, and heaven knows that difference better than you do. Here is what God did not do. He did not rebuke Elijah. He did not stand over that exhausted, broken man and say, "Get up, you are embarrassing me. After everything I did for you, this is how you respond." No, God sent an angel. And that angel did the most quietly powerful thing in all of Scripture. He baked bread. He brought water. "Arise and eat, for the journey is too great for you." 1 Kings 19:7. Bread before blueprint. Water before direction. Provision before the next assignment. God fed his servant before he ever gave him another instruction. And that, chosen one, is the word heaven is releasing over your life right now. You have been ashamed of your exhaustion. You have been apologizing internally for the fact that you feel depleted. You have been comparing your weariness to other people's energy and concluding that something must be spiritually wrong with you, that your faith must be failing, that God must be disappointed. But I need you to hear this like your life depends on it. God is not standing over you with accusation. He is standing over you with provision. He sees what the years cost you. He sees what the grief took. He sees what caregiving extracted, what disappointment quietly hollowed out, what silence stole from your inner world when nobody was looking. He sees what it took just to keep showing up, to keep believing, when every natural reason to quit was stacking up around you like walls. You survived your own private Carmel, and nobody threw a parade. Nobody saw the 450 things you fought in secret. Nobody applauded the years you held your family together when you were fracturing inside. Nobody witnessed the altars you built in the dark, crying out to a God you could not see but refused to stop trusting. But heaven recorded every single moment, and now you are under the tree. And I know that feels like failure. I know the enemy has been whispering that your weariness is proof that God has moved on, that your best days are behind you, that you waited too long and missed the window. That whisper is a lie dressed in a familiar voice. Because here is the truth that changes everything. Elijah's greatest assignment came after the tree. The instruction to anoint kings, to raise up Elisha, to shape the next generation of prophets. All of it came after the collapse, after the bread, after the rest. The tree was not the ending. The tree was the refueling station before the final stretch. And some of you have been sitting under your tree convinced it is your tombstone when God has already been calling it your launching pad. Your fatigue is not disqualification. Your weariness is not proof that God is finished with you. It is proof that you have been carrying something real, fighting something real, surviving something real. And now, heaven is not asking you to push harder. Heaven is asking you to receive. Before he redirects you, he restores you. Before he sends you, he feeds you. Before the next door opens, he is asking you to stop performing strength you do not have, and let the bread of his presence actually reach the empty places inside you. Right now, in the comments, write this: Lord, feed me before you send me. Let that be your prayer today. Not a grand declaration, not a performance. Just an honest surrender from a tired soul to a God who bakes bread in the wilderness. Because the journey ahead of you is real. The next assignment is waiting. The new address is already prepared. But first, God insists on feeding you. And what God insists on providing, no exhaustion can block, no age can disqualify, and no enemy can intercept. The bread is already on its way. Now the question heaven is asking is this: are you willing to release the one hidden agreement that has been keeping you locked inside the season you are already supposed to have left? That is exactly where we are going next. Now I need to go somewhere most preachers are afraid to go, because what I am about to say is not comfortable. It is not polished, and it is not going to make you feel good at first, but it is going to set you free. There is a moment, and most of you know exactly what moment I am talking about, where the waiting stretched so long, the silence went so deep, and the disappointment stacked so high that something shifted inside you, not loudly. Nobody heard it. You did not announce it. You did not even fully realize it happened. But quietly, in the exhausted corners of your soul, you signed something. You signed a lease on a ceiling God never installed. You did not mean to. You were tired. You had been believing for years, maybe decades. You had prayed the same prayer so many times that the words started feeling hollow in your own mouth. You had watched other people step into what you were still waiting for. And one day, without a ceremony, without a declaration, you just stopped expecting it to happen for you. And here is what that sounded like on the inside. Maybe this is just who I am. Maybe I misheard God. Maybe the promise was for someone else. Maybe I'm not meant for more than this. That, right there, that is the agreement. And I need you to understand something critical. You did not choose that lie loudly. You housed it slowly. You gave it a room. You let it sit at your table. You let it speak into your decisions, shrink your prayers, and quietly downsize every dream that started feeling too dangerous to believe in again. Chosen one, hear me. That is not humility. That is not wisdom. That is not maturity. That is a prison, and you have been carrying the keys to it in your own pocket. Proverbs 13:12 says it plainly. Hope deferred makes the heart sick. Not weak, not dramatic. Sick. The Bible is telling you that prolonged disappointment is not just emotional, it is spiritual illness. And the symptom is this: the soul stops reaching. The soul starts protecting itself. The soul starts negotiating with limitation instead of standing on the promise. Let me draw the sharpest line I know how to draw right now. True humility says, without God, I cannot. That is beautiful. That is correct. That is the posture of a servant. But false surrender, the thing that masquerades as humility, says something entirely different. It says, even with God, this probably will not happen for me. Do you hear the difference? One trusts God's power. The other quietly doubts God's willingness. And millions of chosen ones, good people, praying people, faithful people, have been living under that second statement without ever realizing they crossed the line. You stopped doubting God existed. You started doubting God was still working for you specifically. You started believing, somewhere deep and unspoken, that the promises in that Bible were for someone younger, someone more qualified, someone who had not made your particular mistakes. And so you took out a mortgage on limitation. You started paying monthly installments of shrunk expectations, downsized dreams, and careful, protected, self-defended living. And the enemy never had to fight you after that, because you fought yourself. Now let me ask you something, and I need you to sit with this question, because it is about to change everything. When was the last time you prayed a prayer that actually scared you? When was the last time you asked God for something so large that if He did not show up, you would be completely exposed? When was the last time your faith had any risk in it at all? Because safe prayers produce safe lives, and God did not wire you for safe, He wired you for glory. Numbers 13, the spies came back from the promised land. 10 of them looked at the same land flowing with milk and honey, saw the same giants, and said, "We were like grasshoppers in our own sight." Not in the giant's sight first, in their own sight first. The agreement with limitation always starts on the inside, before it ever shows up in your circumstances. Chosen one, that is what happened to you. You looked at your life, your age, your history, your failures, and you called yourself a grasshopper. And heaven has been waiting patiently, persistently, painfully waiting for you to remember that you are not a grasshopper. You are the seed of Abraham. You carry the same spirit that raised Christ from the dead living inside you. Romans 8:11. That is not poetry. That is your spiritual biography. The stagnation you have been living in did not grow because God abandoned you. It grew because your soul quietly signed a lease with a lie. And today, right now, in this moment, that lease is being broken. Say it like you mean it. Say it with every ounce of authority heaven gave you when it breathed life into your lungs. I break agreement with every ceiling God never placed over me. Say it again, louder this time. Let your own ears hear it. Let your body feel the declaration leaving your mouth. Because faith is not silent. Faith is the substance of things hoped for. Hebrews 11:1. And substance has weight, substance has sound, substance has movement. You were not just battling a lie. You were living under an agreement you never meant to sign. But the agreement is broken now. The lease has expired. The ceiling is coming down. And now that the lie has lost its grip, there is still one more thing that has to be released before the door fully opens. And it is not your sin. It is not even your behavior. It is something far more subtle than either of those. Something most chosen ones never see coming. Stay with me. Because this next part is where everything finally makes sense. You just heard the truth about what you have been feeling. That restlessness, that grief with no name, that quiet pulling away from everything familiar. Now I need to take you somewhere deeper, because feeling the transition is one thing. But carrying the promise through it, that is where most chosen ones stumble. That is where most people quietly, privately, without anyone noticing, shrink. and I will not let that happen to you today. Let me tell you about a young man who had a dream so large, so audacious, so heaven-sized that the people closest to him wanted to kill him just for speaking it out loud. You know his name? Joseph, 17 years old, favored son. And God gave him a vision, a picture of his future so clear, so specific, that it should have been enough to carry him through anything. And then everything went wrong. His own brothers stripped him of his coat and threw him into a pit, sold him for 20 pieces of silver like he was inventory, not a human being, dragged into Egypt in chains, enslaved in Potiphar's house, then falsely accused, then forgotten in a prison cell for years. Now here is the question I need you to sit with. At what point was Joseph supposed to stop believing? After the pit? After the auction block? After the false accusation? After 2 full years in that prison, when the one man who promised to remember him forgot? When exactly was Joseph supposed to look at his circumstances and say, maybe I misunderstood what God showed me. Maybe I need to adjust my expectations. Maybe the dream was too big. The answer is never. And here is the principle that will change the rest of your life if you let it land. The dream did not shrink because the circumstances worsened. Joseph did not reinterpret the promise to fit the prison. He did not edit the calling to match the chains. He did not look at the cell walls and decide that perhaps God only meant a smaller version of what he showed him. He carried that dream like a flame through a tunnel, every step darker, every corridor longer, every wall closer. But the flame never went out. Now, I need to speak directly to you, not to Joseph, to you. How many times have you quietly, in the privacy of your own heart, started negotiating with God's original promise? How many times have you said to yourself, well, maybe it won't look like what he showed me. Maybe I should be more realistic. Maybe at my age, it is too late to still believe something that large. You have been embarrassed to still be holding on to what God told you years ago. People around you have moved on. Some of them stopped asking about it. Some of them give you that look, that polite, pitying look when you bring it up. And somewhere in the exhaustion of waiting, you made a quiet agreement. You started downsizing the dream. Not all at once, never all at once, just a small reduction here, a lowered expectation there, a silent surrender dressed up as maturity. But here is the shocking truth nobody is saying from the pulpit on Sunday morning. Downsizing what God declared is not humility. It is unbelief wearing a spiritual disguise. Proverbs 19:21 says it plain. Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. Not your revised plan, not your reduced version. His purpose. And his purpose does not negotiate with your pain. Your present conditions do not have the authority to edit your future identity. Read that again. The pit does not get a vote. The prison does not get a vote. The years of silence do not get a vote. The people who forgot you do not get a vote. Your circumstances must bow to your anchored identity, not the other way around. Joseph never stopped being the dreamer inside that prison. And the moment Pharaoh needed someone with a heaven-given ability to interpret what no one else could understand, Joseph did not have to become someone new. He simply had to be who he had protected all along. That is why heaven kept him through every level of darkness, not because the darkness was the destination, but because what he carried inside it was too valuable to lose. You are carrying something right now that this season has not been able to destroy, and the fact that it is still alive inside you after everything you have been through is not coincidence. That is God's fingerprint on a promise he has not cancelled. So I am asking you directly, chosen one, what have you quietly agreed to give up? What promise did God put in your spirit 10, 20, 30 years ago that you have slowly, painfully, silently reduced to something more manageable? Stop, right there, That reduction is the real prison. Not the waiting, not the delay, not the closed doors. Your grip on the original dream, that is what heaven is asking you to restore right now. Do not apologize for what God showed you. Do not make your present address the judge of your eternal assignment. The dream survives because identity holds it, even when every circumstance denies it. Comment right now, "I will not downsize what God said." Let heaven hear that agreement come out of you today. But I have to warn you, there is still one deeper barrier standing between you and the open door. It is not the enemy. It is not the pit. It is not the prison. It is your grip. And what you are still holding onto that God has already asked you to release. That is exactly where we are going next. Now we go deeper, because what I am about to tell you is the part most preachers skip. The part that is too uncomfortable to say from a Sunday pulpit. The part that will explain not just why you have been waiting, but why the door has not opened yet. You have not just been praying for breakthrough. You have been negotiating the exact shape of it. Hear me clearly. You have not simply asked God to move. You told him how to move. You gave him the timeline. You handed him the blueprint. You whispered, "Lord, I trust you," and then quietly attached a list of conditions to the back of that prayer. The relationship must be restored this way. The healing must come through this doctor. The provision must arrive through this door. The reconciliation must happen with this apology, from this person, by this season. And when none of it came in the form you designed, you called it silence. You called it abandonment. Some of you, and I say this with love, called it evidence that God had forgotten you. But God was not silent. God was simply refusing to be managed. Open your Bible to Genesis 22. Read it slowly, because this story is not about Isaac. Most people think it is. They read it as a story about sacrifice, about obedience, about a father's courage on a mountain. But the deepest truth buried in that passage goes far beyond the knife and the wood and the fire. God was not after the promise. God was after Abraham's grip on it. Abraham had waited 25 years for Isaac, 25 years of ache, of silence, of doors that never opened, of his wife Sarah laughing through tears because the whole thing seemed medically, biologically, humanly impossible. And then the miracle arrived. Isaac was born. The promise had a face. The breakthrough had a name. And Abraham held on, the way only a man who waited a quarter century can hold on. And God said, "Open your hand," not because Isaac was wrong, not because the promise was cancelled, not because God is cruel, but because Abraham's fist had become tighter than his faith. The gift had quietly become bigger than the giver. The answer had slowly taken the throne that only God is permitted to occupy. And here is the moment that should stop you cold. The ram was already there, before Abraham raised the knife, before the angel called out. The provision was already standing in the thicket, already prepared, but Abraham needed open hands before he could receive what was already waiting. Chosen one, your ram is already there. Your breakthrough is not lost. It is not delayed because God is slow. It is standing in the thicket of heaven, fully prepared, fully positioned, and it cannot be placed into a closed fist. Let me press on something tender right now. Some of you have been grieving a very specific picture, not just the blessing itself, but the version of it you designed in your mind years ago. The marriage that was supposed to look a certain way, the family reunion that was supposed to happen while certain people were still living, the financial turnaround that was supposed to arrive before retirement, not after. The healing that was supposed to come before the diagnosis went this far, and because life did not match the picture, you have been mourning the frame instead of trusting the painter. Can I ask you something direct? What if the version you have been demanding is actually smaller than what God has already prepared? What if your closed fist full of your version, your timeline, your method, is the only thing standing between you and something wider, deeper, and more restorative than anything you had the imagination to request? Proverbs 3:5 does not say, "Trust the Lord and lean on your understanding." It says, "Trust the Lord," instead of leaning on your own understanding. That word instead is not gentle. It is a replacement, a full surrender of the blueprint. A closed fist cannot receive. Hands full of your version cannot hold God's version. You cannot negotiate with heaven and yield to heaven at the same time. You are either gripping or you are receiving. And right now, God is not asking for your performance. He is not asking for your church attendance record or your prayer streak. He is asking for one thing: your open hand. And now we reach the deepest truth of all. The thing you have really been grieving is not just the delay. It is the person you thought you would be by now. The version of your life that was supposed to have arrived at this age, with everything resolved, everything healed, everything answered. But chosen one, that person, that version, that picture, was built by your hands, not God's. And what God is building right now, in the waiting, in the silence, in the holy discomfort of this very season, is something your hands were never skilled enough to construct. You are not waiting on breakthrough alone. Breakthrough is waiting on your open hand. Right now, wherever you are, whisper this and mean it with everything inside you. Lord, I release the shape. I still trust the promise. Let it go. The timeline, the method, the specific face you put on the answer. Release it all and watch what was already standing in the thicket begin to move toward you. Because the next thing God is about to show you is why the leaving was never meant to be empty-handed. Now I need to go somewhere most preachers are afraid to go, because the real reason you feel stuck, it is not the devil working against you. It is not lack of faith. It is not unanswered prayer. It is not even doubt. It is grief, holy, legitimate, completely unaddressed grief. And nobody in your church, nobody in your family, nobody sitting across from you at Sunday dinner has given you permission to call it what it actually is. So I am giving you that permission right now. You are mourning the person you used to be. Think about that for a moment. You have spent so much energy trying to be strong, trying to keep moving, trying to convince yourself and everyone around you that you are fine, that you never stopped to bury what actually died. The old role that once gave you purpose, the relationship that once made you feel known, the version of yourself that used to fit so naturally into spaces that now feel like borrowed clothes 2 sizes too small. That person carried you here, and that person is gone. Ecclesiastes 3-4 says, "There is a time to mourn and a time to dance." But here is what nobody tells you: you cannot get to the dancing until you are honest about the mourning. You are not weak for grieving. You are not faithless for feeling the weight of what has changed. You are not behind because the transition hurts. You are human, and you are chosen. And both of those things are true at the same time. Here is the ache I want to name precisely, because I know it lives in you. You have outgrown people you genuinely love. Not because they are bad, not because the relationship was false, but because you have been changed by fire they did not walk through. And now you sit in the same room, at the same table, laughing at the same things, and feel like a stranger wearing a familiar face. That loneliness is one of the most sophisticated pains a human being can carry, because you cannot explain it without sounding arrogant. You cannot share it without it being misunderstood. So you carry it alone, in silence, wondering why belonging feels like it used to come so naturally and now feels like a performance. Let me tell you what that feeling actually is. It is the friction of a skin that no longer fits. A snake does not grieve its old skin. It moves. It presses forward through the narrow place. It leaves behind what cannot stretch to contain what it is becoming, and on the other side, it emerges new, exposed, and more fully itself than it has ever been. That pressure you feel right now, that is not punishment. That is the narrow place. That is heaven making room for the version of you that the old environment could never hold. But I need to press deeper, because this grief has a layer most people never examine. You are not just afraid of losing people, or roles, or places. You are afraid of losing yourself. The self you have known for 60, 70, 80 years. The self that had a name in certain rooms. The self that people depended on in specific ways. The self that understood its own reflection. And now you stand in front of the mirror and something behind your eyes has shifted and you do not fully recognize who is looking back. And that terrifies you in a way you have never told a single living soul. Can I tell you something that will change the way you see this moment? That disorientation, that holy unfamiliarity with your own reflection is not a crisis. It is a resurrection in progress. John 12:24. Jesus said it plainly, "Unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it bears much fruit." You have to lose the grain to gain the harvest. You have to release the seed to receive the tree. The death of who you were is not the end of your story. It is the very condition required for the next chapter to breathe. You are standing at the funeral of your old self. And I know that sounds frightening. But listen carefully. You can already hear footsteps approaching. The footsteps of who you are becoming. They are unhurried. They are steady. And they are getting closer. Grief is a hallway. It is not a house. You are allowed to walk through it. You are not allowed to move your furniture in. Honor what carried you here. Honor the relationships, the roles, the version of yourself that survived things that should have destroyed you. Honor every scar, every sacrifice, every silent night you held yourself together when everything was falling apart. Honor all of it, and then release it. Because the next version of you cannot fit inside the old address. Heaven already knows this. That is why the lease expired. That is why the old spaces feel hollow. That is why the old identity feels like a coat that no longer closes around what you have become. God is not asking you to forget who you were. He is asking you to trust who He is making you into. Now that the grief has been named, now that you can finally see it for what it is, only one thing remains. The decree. Because heaven did not bring you through all of this, through the morning, through the molting, through the midnight, through the mystery, just to leave you standing in a hallway forever. There is a door ahead of you, and God has already decided you are walking through it. Type right now, "I honor who carried me here, but I will not stay here." Chosen one, I need you to stay right here with me, because what I am about to declare over your life is not motivation. It is not encouragement. It is not a feeling. It is a verdict. And verdicts do not ask for your permission. They do not wait for your emotions to catch up. They do not pause because fear is still standing in the room. A verdict is simply read, and then it stands forever. So hear me now, with every fiber of your spirit wide open. The season of stagnation is closed. Not because you finally got it all together. Not because you stopped struggling. Not because the pain disappeared or the questions were all answered. God did not wait for you to be perfect before He moved. He moved because He made a final decision about your address. Do you understand what that means? Think about it. When a lease expires on an apartment in this city, it does not matter how comfortable you got in that place. It does not matter how many memories lived inside those walls. When the lease is up, the landlord has the legal authority to say, "This tenancy is finished. Pack your things. A new resident is coming." Heaven has looked at the season you have been living in, that season of delay, of invisible labor, of carrying weight nobody saw, of praying prayers that seemed to dissolve into the ceiling, and God Himself has stamped it, expired. Not because it was meaningless. That waiting season built something in you that prosperity alone never could have. It built roots. When the storms came, you did not topple because the waiting drove you deeper. It built endurance, the kind that cannot be manufactured in comfort. It built capacity room inside your spirit to carry what is coming, that the old version of you simply was not large enough to hold. It built spiritual weight, the kind of authority that only comes from walking through fire and choosing God anyway. Romans 5:3 says it plainly, "Tribulation worketh patience." And patience, real patience, is not passive. It is the most violent form of faith there is. You stayed, you held, you did not quit, and heaven recorded every single day of it. But now the recording is complete. The testimony of the waiting season is sealed, and God is saying, enough. You have been here long enough. So, what are you leaving? You are leaving old thinking that told you the best was behind you. You are leaving limitation that wore the disguise of humility. You are leaving expired rooms where people still see the version of you that heaven already retired. You are leaving tolerated pain, the kind you stopped even praying about because you assumed it was just your life now. You are leaving spiritual leases heaven never signed. Because here is the truth that should shake something loose inside you right now. You are not leaving because you failed there. You are leaving because heaven has finished there. Read that again. Let it land. You were not removed in shame. You were not pushed out in defeat. The door is not closing on you, it is closing behind you. Because the open door is in front of you. The address has changed. The verdict has been read. The stagnation is closed. The door is open. Now I am going to ask you to do something that takes more courage than most people realize. I am going to ask you to open your mouth right now, right where you are, and speak this agreement out loud with me. Not in your head, out loud. Because Proverbs 18:21 tells us that life and death are in the power of the tongue. Your declaration is not decoration, it is activation. Say this: I break agreement with the lie that says I have been forgotten. I release my grip on the shape of the breakthrough I designed, and I trust the one heaven prepared. I honor the version of me that survived the waiting. That person was brave. That person was faithful. That person carried what most people would have dropped. But I am not that version anymore. I choose heaven's decision over my fear. I am not being removed. I am being released. It is finished behind me. It begins in front of me. I will not look back. Chosen one. Lot's wife looked back and she became a monument to a place God had already judged finished. Do not become a monument to a closed season. Do not let fear of the new door keep you frozen in the frame of the old one. Isaiah 43:18 says, "Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing." God is not asking you to dishonor your history. He is commanding you not to live in it. The moving truck left before dawn. The keys have turned in the old lock for the last time, and somewhere ahead of you, in a place your natural eyes have not seen yet, there is a room with your name already on the door. Walk toward it. Walk toward it now. If this word confirmed what your spirit already knew, type right now, I am being released. Send this to somebody standing at a threshold right now who needs the courage to move. You might be the only voice that reaches them in time. Subscribe, because God is not done closing old doors and opening new ones, and you need to be here for every word He releases. And before you leave, put your hand over your heart right now and agree with heaven one final time. Your address has changed, and chosen one, where you are going is worth every single step it cost you to leave.